Hello everybody, it's Stuart Alan Swerdlow.
And Janet Diane Moria Swerdlow.
And this is the Expansions News Podcast for the week of Valentine's Day, middle of February 2018.
Wow, and it's good to have you back again from all your journeys.
Yes, I just now got back after traveling through Colombia, Ecuador, and El Salvador, all my favorite places, and back home again to horrendous snow and cold. In fact, it hasn't stopped snowing ever.
No, well, the whole time you were gone, it snowed every day. But I saw your pictures in Ecuador when you were out in bright sunny skies.
Yes, but it was not hot in Ecuador. It was kind of nice at 3,000 meters in elevation. And of course, it was election, so no alcohol was allowed anywhere in Ecuador till after elections. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, very interesting.
And I actually stood between the north and south hemispheres of the Earth, which reminded me of the time I stood over the tectonic plates between Europe and North America in the middle of Iceland.
Yeah, I've been to Quito, but I didn't get to go to the difference
It's
of the...
far. It's about an hour north of
No.
Quito. It's not in the city.
Yeah, I did like Quito when we were there.
It's a very, very nice place, and I had a very great seminar, and I also had very interesting alternative treatments in the Bionutrición Medical Center with Dr. Carlos Jaramillo, who's also a brother knight of the Sacred Medical Order of the Knights of Hope. Mm-hmm. And so actually, they determined I do not have glaucoma or cataracts, which I thought all along that I didn't. So it makes me wonder why American doctor here said that I did when I actually don't.
Well, it's very interesting. Anyway, I'm glad you had a good experience. We loved all the pictures that you sent back, and we shared them all over Facebook. It was a lot of fun.
And I imagine you also posted the pictures of me taking my x-rays and my
dress.
body and my... Yeah. Mm-hmm. And by the way, all those major x-rays that I took at a hospital in downtown Quito cost $70
U.S.
United States. They use dollars in Ecuador. And here in the United States, just one of those x-rays would have been over $200. I walked in to the medical center at 8:30. I was out by 8:50. And in the United States, I'd probably be still sitting in the waiting room waiting for it to be called.
Yeah, I was glad to hear it was medical treatments. We thought maybe you were going to start wearing dresses or something.
Well, I kind of did. I kind of looked cute in that little thing, didn't I?
The smock, that's what I wasn't sure. Smock.
It was a smock for smock, yes. But anyway, so I didn't have a lot of time to appear in news, so I'll just listen to you and make my wonderful comments.
I actually have some very great stories, which I would love to hear your take on, because you've got some interesting history information, historical information, and UFO information I'm interested to know your thoughts on as well. So you, of course, know what's going on in South Korea right now. We have the Olympic Games, right? Well, what's the most interesting thing, more so to me than the Olympic Games, is the fact that Kim Jong-un's sister
Yes, I saw her.
is there. Kim Yo-young, right?
Kim Yo-young is Kim Jong-un?
Yes. Anyway, she arrived via private jet.
Of course she did, because it's like 2 minutes away.
The first member of her family to walk on South Korean soil in nearly 7 decades. Now, this was interesting about the article, because I have read where they have certain times a year where they let the North Koreans and South Koreans,
Yes, they mix at the DMZ.
Right. Well, now on this article it says few in South Korea have ever even seen a North Korean person in person.
I drove across the DMZ.
I remember. And then, listen to this one. Her father, the late dictator Kim Jong II, reportedly described her as the country's princess. Now, considering the fact that you have talked about the Kim Jong-un, they're all getting mixed up. Kim Jong-un's family is being Japanese.
Yes, they are.
So therefore, that could make her a princess.
Well, she's part of that family lineage. North Korean lineage is actually the line of the Japanese royalty.
Right, and that's why I thought was interesting, and they called her the country's princess, because that technically is true in many ways. It also says, and the media has called her North Korean Ivanka.
I hope she's better than
That's
that.
what I was going to say. That's not really a compliment in my opinion.
Right.
And then the next interesting thing she did was she took a high-speed train to the Olympic Stadium, where she sat directly behind South Korea's president, Moon Jae-in.
And you know who else she sat behind and above?
Who?
Vice President Pence.
Oh, yeah, he ignored
Yes,
He
but
was-
the thing is, he was sitting here and she
Right.
was above, and so actually had a higher status
Yes.
than he did.
And the same thing with the what is he? The South Korea's president.
Moon
He
Jae-in.
was down below and he reached up. I noticed that as well in the pictures. She sat above him.
Because she is royalty.
Exactly. So these are things that you need to be aware of in what's going on in the ritual out there that they're not telling you about, but they're showing you. So anyway, it says that his sister is believed to hold a trusted position in her brother's regime, and she's scheduled to meet with South Korea's president to discuss the tense situation between the two nations.
Well, actually, she already has and invited him to North Korea.
Okay. Because Moon has continued to say that he wants the unification of the peninsula, which was divided since the start of the Korean War in 1950. And technically, a lot of people don't realize this, the nations are still at war. So
Right.
therefore, it's interesting that they're doing all this formalities, ritualistic whatevers.
And that the North Korean Olympic team is participating with the South
Yes.
Koreans as one team.
They are a unified team. So that was fascinating. And then it went on to say that the North sent a group of cheerleaders and performance troupe that staged various concerts. And they played pop hits and pro-unification songs, Mind Control. And the tickets were so coveted by curious South Koreans that a lottery was needed to issue these tickets. And this the sister was educated in Switzerland, which I don't know if people realize that.
So was her brother.
Okay, so there you go. And now here we go on with more of the Me Too movement, which of course supposedly is about women having less sexual harassment in their lives. A California State Assemblywoman, Christina Garcia, who's a Democrat representing Los Angeles County, who has championed the Me Too movement and who has been featured in the Time magazine spread championing the silence breakers, has now been accused of sexually groping a man.
I'm sure he was so upset.
25-year-old Daniel Fierro in 2014 said she stroked his back, squeezed his buttocks, and attempted to touch his crotch.
What?
Yeah. And then, apparently, there was another lobbyist that came forward and kind of said the same thing, except he claims she was drunk and said, I've got a goal set for myself to F you. So now what are they going to do? Now the men are going to come forward against the women. So this ought to be a real show
I'm going to
before
join
it's
that
done.
movement.
I just thought this was so interesting. The other thing that we continually see in the news, remember, is we see this Nazi. The Nazism doesn't die.
Yes.
So we've got in Illinois
Oh, yes.
a 70-year-old man named Arthur J. Jones. He's an anti-Semite running unopposed for Congress.
Right.
Now, what was interesting to me is that this woman, CNN person, let me see what her name was. Allison Camerata. Now, that's the fact that she even gave him airtime. And not only did she give him airtime, but she baited him to get upset while she stayed calm.
Well, first of all, when they invited him on the show, what did he think was going to happen?
Well, but the point being is that this to me is riling up the American public. Because she said that he's a known Holocaust denier, a white supremacist, an anti-Semite, a former member of the American National Socialist Workers' Party.
So basically typical American.
No, the people aren't like that, dear. Not your average American.
In the Midwest?
No, they're not.
And the South?
No.
Please.
They
I meet them all the time.
I have family there. They're not like that.
You know what your family did
What?
during the, when black people came into town?
That was a long time ago.
Well,
That was a long
so was the
time
Nazis
ago.
a long time ago.
That doesn't exist like that anymore except in certain pockets as it does anywhere. But the whole U.S. is not like that. Anyway, so she confronted him saying, your website is filled with the most vile, rancid rhetoric I think I've ever read. So she's baiting him. She said, goes on, it is shocking to hear how vocally and unapologetically racist you are. Are you a Nazi? Because we can't let this go. So then he responded with a racist tirade about you Jews and media before admitting he denied the Holocaust, calling it an extortion racket. And then on his campaign website, they showed images of him speaking at the KKK, neo-Nazi events, giving the Nazi salute, shredding a flag of Israel, on and on. But the point is, in my opinion, is all of this is to get people riled up. The journalist, the CNN journalist, Camerata, remained calm and then said, you can have your own conspiracy theories, but you can't have your own facts. And he goes on to say, not conspiracy theories, but facts. The Jews basically control the country, the Congress, the economy, and the media.
Well, that's kind of true.
So then Camerata began talking about Adolf Hitler orchestrating the genocide of Jewish people, and Jones screamed poppycock. Now that's like a planned response. Anyway, then she decided to wrap up the interview by informing this man that he was going to lose. You have a long track record of losing. You lose virtually everything that you run for Congress, for mayor. You will lose this race.
Except that he's the only one running, so how could he lose?
He's the only one running of his party, but he then will be running against the Democrats. So either Dan Lipinski, who's already in office, or his challenge in the Democratic primary, Marie Newman. But the point is they are giving airtime to continue to bring forward these things to rile up the American people, either for or against.
I think that, yes, it was a staged event.
Yes.
Because, after all, when he was invited on to speak, he knew what was going to happen. They weren't going to say, oh, what a lovely person you are.
And and she knew what was going to say.
Of course, it was all set up.
Yeah, and if he was really upset, he wouldn't be screaming poppycock. Nobody uses that.
Right, he would say,
yeah, that's right, and walk off the set and do all kinds of things. So now on to more serious, Now on to more serious matters. More serious than this, believe it or not, are the Queen's swans.
The who?
The Queen's swans. Again?
I thought she was the only one that could eat them or kill them or whatever.
Well, this is very important because the Queen's swans, her bevy, which is a flock of swans, it's called a bevy, have been analyzed, and 5 of them were confirmed to have bird flu.
Oh, no.
So apparently,
I shall not have it.
There is a man who is, his official royal position is swan marker.
There's a swan marker?
That's right. And his name is David Barber, who is officially responsible for the Queen's swans. And he says, this is the first time in my 24 years as swan marker that bird flu has hit the Thames. Naturally, we are all very upset about the situation. Now, apparently, in case you didn't know this one, there is a rehabilitation center called Swan Support. I think this is the way that the British people...
That's the SS. That's the SS.
Yeah, and this is the way British people spend their money. Okay, on swan
No, they don't
support.
spend their money. The money's taken away from them.
Apparently, they were notified that several of the animals near the Queen's residence at Windsor Castle appeared to be ill. So why do people tell them if they have a swan marker who's supposed to be watching?
So they called, hello, I noticed your swans sneezing and blowing their noses.
Yeah, we found a few dead swans, but we find dead swans all year round. But then we noticed that some of the other swans did not look very well. We thought something is not right.
Maybe they're on drugs.
Then it went on to say that bird flu isn't, and here comes your fear-mongering, that bird flu is an illness that usually only affects birds, but in China in October of 2017, this last year, left 460 people sickened with the disease.
Right.
However, scientists said the risk of human-to-human transmission is low. And then they went on to say, now again, why did they even say this? That the outbreak is unlikely to affect the royal wedding of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle.
Because it's not real, that's why.
So it's like, why do we even put that in? And of course, as you mentioned before, that the Crown claimed ownership of all the mute swans in England and Wales in the 12th century.
Well, the mute ones?
That's what they're called, as mute swans,
So
or the Cygnus of the Cygnus
They
order.
can't speak, those poor swans.
Primarily to stop commoners of depriving the royals of a favorite banqueting dish. So you cannot eat that unless you're a royal.
I wouldn't eat a swan if it was free.
Now, we have been studying on the website about frequency. So what do swans represent?
Swan song. The end of something.
Okay, so if they are dying, then we've got something going on, and the queen is the only one who can say when things are
I
going
hope
to
they
be done.
sneeze on the queen.
And while I was researching this article, and you may already know this, I did not, apparently the queen's power does not stop at Land's End. Did you know that there's a rule that dates back to the 1300s that technically Her Majesty owns all the sturgeons, whales, and dolphins and porpoises, apparently that are captured within 3 miles of the UK's shore, or comes ashore. They're recognized as fishes royal. Did you know that? And so it says they may also be claimed on behalf of the crown. So when a sturgeon is sold in the usual way, the purchaser, as a gesture of loyalty, requests the honor of its being accepted by Elizabeth. So now, Again,
please.
think about what a sturgeon is.
Please, British people, you need to stop.
A sturgeon is a very antiquated fish. They're huge and they're like dinosaurs.
Yeah, but I like them.
They're like dinosaurs.
I love them
they're
with bagel
huge.
and butter.
Well,
So
apparently
good.
you can't eat that if you're in England.
Well, I will.
Because it has to go to Elizabeth.
You know what's going to go to her?
What?
I'm not even going to say it.
Now, this is something else that's interesting about this goes back to the swans. The Queen Elizabeth shares the privilege of swan ownership with the Worshipful Company of Vintners and the Worshipful Company of Dyers.
You know, they need to get over themselves.
Yeah, but why? See, I guess that these people can eat it too.
It's
I
like
don't
a
know.
really bad children's story.
Or it's like a club. For more than 700 years, all swan-related royal duties are handled by the Keeper of the Swans. That's how serious they take this.
Keeper of the Swans shall step forward.
Every year, the Queen and her swan posse count each and every
She's
swan
a
in the
swan
river.
posse count?
Yeah.
You know, change a couple of those letters, then it could be vile.
I know. And now listen to this one. Now there's something else that the Queen likes. What do bats represent? Bats.
Don't tell me she eats guano.
Not quite, but close. What do bats represent?
Swooping down on unsuspected prey
Okay,
in the night.
In her summer home in Balmoral, she has a small colony of bats that reside in the main hall of the castle.
That's terrible.
Yes, now wouldn't you get rid of them?
No, because they're her relatives.
The Queen allegedly refuses to let staff meddle with the bats despite the extra cleaning work that they generate.
It's because she's related to them.
And it says the Queen is so involved with the bats that she assists a footman in catching the bats with a specially outfitted butterfly net and takes them outside herself. Now, what do you think of that?
I think it's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. But the point is that who would let a colony of bats live in their house unless there's some kind of frequency there that they want to have?
They turn into vampires.
And to have them poop down and say, oh, that's okay, it's a little messy, but we'll clean up the
No, because she
guano.
doesn't clean it up. What does she care?
According to this, she does.
Oh, please. Don't you think the Queen's on her hands and knees with a rag cleaning up the... Please.
I'm sure she's pointing it out. You left that
There's some
guano.
guano. I shall not have it.
Well, anyway, I thought that was very creepy, amongst other things they do.
Look who you're talking about.
And speaking about what I would call astral ritual, some very interesting things are going on in New Zealand. I don't know if you heard about this one, but a New Zealand river has been granted the same legal rights as a human being. Did you hear about that one? A river.
Yeah.
Because of the Maori tribe, after 140 years of negotiation, they won the recognition for the Wanganui River, meaning that the Wanganui River must be treated as a living entity.
Yeah, and this is really important in the 21st century.
Apparently it is, and I'll tell you why, because it has to do with astral ritual. It is coming to your town, so pay attention. The new status of the river means if someone abuses or harms it, the law now sees no differentiation between harming the tribe or harming the river because they're one and the same.
Listen, I have dealt with the Maoris when I was in New Zealand, and they're not very nice people.
Well, it says that the river will have its own legal identity with all corresponding rights, duties, and liabilities of a legal person. And apparently there are 2 guardians appointed on behalf of the river, one from the Crown and one from the tribe. And because all Maori tribes regard themselves as part of the universe, at one with and equal to the mountains, the rivers, and the seas, that this could set a precedent for other Maori tribes in New Zealand to follow in this tribe's footsteps. And New Zealand is giving as retribution to the Maoris 80 million New Zealand dollars.
For what?
Because of not respecting their rights, plus an additional New Zealand 1 million towards establishing the legal framework for the river.
And this is why New Zealand will never be a major country.
All indigenous peoples know about the frequencies that are inherent in each and every thing that's here on the earth, in the earth, and the earth herself. So this is setting up precedence, in my opinion, for astral rituals, global astral rituals. It's right now making it look like it's indigenous people.
Yeah, Maoris were also cannibals. Shall we get the money for that too?
Listen to this. Now New Zealand also gives Mount Taranaki the same legal rights as a person. So now we have a river and we have a mountain. It's also granted the right to have a legal personality.
Oh my goodness.
And remember in Saudi Arabia...
Now it's going to be a transgender mountain too.
In Saudi Arabia, we have a robot with legal personality.
Right.
So...
We should give your pen some legal personality too.
So New Zealand giving Mount Taranaki the same legal rights as a person. This was as a result of 8 local Maori tribes and the government who will share guardianship of the sacred mountain on the west coast of the island. And the family, they view it as a family member and an ancestor. So the new status, same as the river, means that if someone abuses or harms the mountain, it is legally the same as harming the tribe or
Or if
person.
someone sexually abuses the mountain.
Then it's the same as sexually abusing a tribe. And we've talked about people who are now, having sex with the earth, which is really crazy.
So how would they bring the mountain into court?
They
testify.
They have their representatives.
I see.
Now, that's the second one. What happens? It always happens in how many? 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the first, in 2014, the first to part of the earth to be granted a legal personality is an 821 square mile national park on the North Island called Te Urewera. That's how I would say that. I don't know.
I don't even bother.
So this 821 square mile national park also has the rights, powers, duties, and liabilities of a legal person. Now, and remember what I just told you, Astral Ritual? Could this legal approach spread beyond New Zealand? Back in 2016, when I found this article, it said that this idea is already being talked about with Canada's Attorney General, Jody Wilson-Raybould.
Canada sucks.
Doesn't matter.
And it has a stupid prime minister who likes to show how he can stand on his fingers on the table.
Doesn't matter.
Who's also the illegitimate son of Fidel Castro, by the way.
Doesn't matter, because what's happening, okay, they've done it 3 times in New Zealand. That's establishing a precedent. Now Canada has been talking about it. Who knows who else is going to talk about this, because this is a precursor for Astral Ritual. If you read our site, you'll know why. Now, speaking of Astral Ritual, Kylie Jenner had a daughter.
Oh, jeez. Do we have to talk about her?
We do, because it has to do with programming and Astral Ritual. Okay, so her daughter's name has been revealed, which is called Stormy. Now, Stormy is a weather. It's not a person's name. Okay? And it's a temperament, and it's a great setup for an Astral Ritual, because then they can put some weather thing
So
inside
she's
of her.
already possessed.
Exactly. And now listen to this. Speaking of possession, she has no middle name. And they made a big deal about that on the internet. Now, if you are familiar with our work and you know about name analysis, your middle name, all your letters are archetypes. Your middle name represents the subconscious mind, and it is a conduit between the conscious and the superconscious. So without that, you're more easily controllable, and your experiences in life are more likely to go one way or another.
Should be bipolar.
Yes. So then, now listen to the fans were predicting her name. They thought it would be, guess what?
I don't know.
Butterfly.
Of course.
So
maybe stream or
why?
tree.
We talk about monarch programming. Remember, if you're interested in the programming stuff, 13Q, we have a lot in here about monarch programming, and the same here. And the symbol of monarch programming is a butterfly.
They should have called her Butterfly, because then for short they could have just called her Butt.
Well, that would be her mother. The Hyperspace Helper has basic deprogramming as well. So these 3 books, I can get all 3 of these in one envelope if you don't have them. Anyway, so why did they guess butterfly? Because Kylie Jenner apparently, while she was pregnant, wore butterfly jewelry, and she decorated Stormy's nursery with butterflies.
Because she's a monarch sex slave.
Yes. And so then they're saying that her husband actually made a song called Butterfly Effect. Mm-hmm. So all about programming and ritual. It's right in front of you. You just have to know how to read it.
Incredible.
Yeah. And then moving on to another one, well, back, because we've already mentioned Canada. I know this is one of your favorite countries. Somebody sent this in for you to make a comment on about a sinkhole that swallowed a stretch of the Trans-Canada Highway on Newfoundland's west coast. So could you make a comment about that?
Well, first
please?
of all, I think all of Canada should be in a sinkhole. But besides that, it's because of the fault lines that are opening up near the St. Lawrence Seaway that have tributaries that go into that area and obviously are moving. And back in the 1700s, there were major earthquakes off the coast of Newfoundland, and I suspect will happen again very soon.
Okay, and what's interesting, I'm going to talk about something similar, except on the other side of the North American, South American continent at the end, so hold that thought. Now, we've also seen a lot of Saudi Arabia in the news here recently. This has to do with our New World religion. This is very interesting to me, that Saudi women are now being told that they do not need to wear the abaya, which is the loose-fitting, full-length robe symbolic of religious faith.
I was going to get one for you.
Oh, darn. A senior member of the top Muslim clerical body said that this is another indication of the kingdom's toward modernization. Sheikh Abdullah al-Mutlaq, a member of the Council of Senior Scholars, said Muslim women should dress modestly, but this does not necessitate wearing the abaya. More than 90% of pious Muslim women in the Muslim world do not wear abayas. So we should not force people to wear abayas.
Because you know what? Nowhere in the Quran does it say you have to wear any of that stuff.
Exactly. While not necessarily signaling a change in the law, the statement is the first of its kind from a senior religious figure and follows the recent pattern of freedoms the kingdom has been witnessing with the ascent of young Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman to power.
Salman. Bin Salman.
Bin Salman. What did I say?
Solomon. What Solomon means.
Salman. Yeah. The kingdom has seen an expansion in women's rights recently, such as the decision passed to allow women to attend mixed public sporting events and the announcement that Saudi Arabia would grant them the right to drive. Now, as you know, we talked about the new city in Saudi Arabia that's coming along. We've talked about they want to attract upwardly mobile people, so therefore...
I think we should get a condo there.
And, of course, New World Religion, because we want everybody, kind of dressed the same, so we've got to relax things a little bit. And Macy's recently announced that they're going to be selling hijabs to women. So that's
I
a big...
saw that.
Yeah. And then a programming... Again, trans story, which we have talked about before, but it's in the news again. It's got to be for a reason. There is a 61-year-old chemist from Salt Lake City, Utah, Chloe Jennings White, perfectly healthy, who identifies as transabled and prefers to live her life in a wheelchair.
Well,
so the official name for this condition is Body Integrity Identity Disorder.
or bees.
And Jennings White hopes to have a surgery done where her sciatic and femoral, is that right? Femoral nerves will be severed.
So some doctor is going to take a woman with normal, healthy body and cut her nerves.
No, she said she can't find a doctor to perform the procedure.
Good.
So thank
I hope she can't ever.
Yeah. Okay, do you remember last time we did the news together that I told you about the pizza place in New York that was making the Tide Pods? You know, the pizza, because they said that people were eating Tide Pods as a Tide Pod challenge.
The intelligent people in the United States decided eating detergent packets are a really good thing to do.
Well, now it gets even more intelligent because there are New York lawmakers that want to require companies behind the detergent packets like Tide Pods to individually wrap each packet and change the colorful design so they will appeal less to children. I was going to say, it's not even just children, it's young adults, so it's crazy.
So the next thing they'll be eating bags of cement instead.
Right. And so then they're going to have to change that. But Procter & Gamble, which owns the Tide brand, says that basically they're already doing everything that they can.
Yeah, people are brain-dead morons. You can't stop them.
And the legislatures are saying we are asking for all laundry detergent pods to be uniform in color. We don't need them to look like gummy bears in order for consumers to use them.
But that's another thing. Why would you make them look fancy just putting them in the freaking laundry?
I don't know. But the point is, in my opinion, is that they want to make everything the same. Because if they make everything the same, they're more easily to control. And this is part of legislating that.
People want to know why aliens want to take over. They should.
So anyway, but they're moving forward with this legislation in New York, claiming that once it hits here, then they can do it all across the country. It'll make life safer for everybody.
Right.
But these are teenagers.
It's the detergent packets that make life dangerous.
Yeah, and it says, this was interesting. Why do we even need this quote? The American Association of Poison Control Centers has said, eating detergent packets can be fatal or lead to serious health problems.
You know, if they didn't say that, I never would realize it.
I know, it's just crazy. So anyway, and then, now here's one for you, maybe. Do you know that in Thailand that there is a new trend of penis whitening?
Why?
Because apparently they say that skin whitening is nothing new in many Asian countries, because dark skin means you work outside.
Yeah, it's a low-level color.
Yeah, and it used to be the same in the U.S., before they introduced suntan stuff. It used to be that lighter-skinned people, that was favored because it meant you had a lot of money, you didn't have to work outside. Anyway, they have this laser treatment that breaks down the melanin in skin. So some brilliant person, first of all, get this one, they started doing vagina whitening. So once they started vagina whitening, then the men decided they wanted penis whitening. So I mean, they're both stupid.
The rest of their body's dark, but their private parts are white.
I guess. And
Perfect.
apparently you have to maintain this. Once you start it, you can't just let it go. But the Health Ministry of Thailand, which why they even allow this, I don't know. But it's warning about possible side effects such as pain, inflammation, scars.
You think?
And even effects on the reproductive system and on having sex.
Gee, how could that possibly be?
So if you stop the
an
treatment,
issue?
then your skin color returns to normal and may result in nasty looking spots. So it's just like, why do they even allow this? It's just silly.
Unbelievable. They should eat detergent packets.
So that
Solve their problem.
would whiten it. And then into the staged alien invasion, which we've been kind of following this for a long time. Obviously, we've been telling you about this for a long time, and people said, well, where is it? Well, it's here. So an American fighter pilot claims to have chased an alien aircraft and has warned world leaders to take UFO sightings seriously.
Oh, because they'll listen to him.
Yeah, because he's part of the program.
Right.
Retired U.S. Navy pilot commander David Fravor spoke out in support of an ex-U.S. government intelligence officer, Luis Elizondo, who I have already told you about. And Elizondo claims he ran a real-life X-Files UFO research department at the Pentagon. And that was funded by $22 million or 60 million pounds of black ops money from the U.S. Congress. Commander Fravor, 53, claims he was flying one of 2 fighter jets on a routine training mission about 100 miles into the Pacific Ocean off San Diego when they were diverted to check out an aircraft spotted on radar. The operations operator said they'd been tracking up to a dozen mystery aircraft over 2 weeks, but had not manned planes deployed when they showed up. So the first object appeared at 80,000 feet, then went down toward the sea, stopping at 20,000 feet and hovering before dropping out of radar. So then Commander Fravor arrived. He saw a white aircraft hovering 50 feet above a disturbance in the ocean. He said it was just moving randomly around this 40-foot-long white tic-tac looking thing with no wings. It was a clear day with a blue background. It was perfectly white. We did not see any windows, no form of propulsion, nothing, just a big white object. It was rounded on both ends, had a cylindrical body, which rounded ends, same front to back. I could not tell what it was made of. It was bright white, but it was not reflecting a bunch of light. And then, in a stern warning to the governments, he said, quote, "We all need to take these seriously as a species because right now we don't know the intent of these things.
Yes, you do.
If they're like E.T., it's great. If they're like War of the Worlds, not so much. You can ignore them and hope they're just going to observe, or you can do something about it and try to understand what they're doing and develop technology in case they have, quote, a bad intention."
Let me tell you, they do have bad intentions.
And now this reminded me, and I was going to ask you about this because this has to do with our story in Ecuador, which is coming up at the end. Remember when we had clients who their husbands were fishermen off the coast of California, and they found spots swirling in the ocean.
When I was working in LA, it was on the news about whirlpools opening up off the coast of San Diego.
Exactly. Excuse me. I better not. Anyway, the galaxy's fastest car, Elon Musk, you've heard about that. Okay, he set that off. I don't have the date, but everybody's been watching that on the news.
Days ago.
Yeah. Anyway, it overshot its orbit and is now going beyond Mars at 25,000 miles.
Because that was
per hour.
accidental.
That's what it says. Accidentally sent the
Right,
car
we accidentally
further
did
into the
that.
solar system than was originally planned.
What a surprise. I'm so shocked.
Yep. Anyway, and apparently it's got a mannequin in there named Starman. So there's got to
Right,
be
who looks
some
like a
symbolism
person.
in there.
Yeah.
Maybe it really is a person for all we know.
Well, I'm sure it's a robot.
That's possible. And in the background of this car, they have David Bowie's Life on Mars playing in the background.
Of course they do.
And on the screenshot, it says, "Don't panic," which to me is going to be a major trigger for people. So apparently this Starman was meant to be on a 250 million mile journey to orbit Mars. But now it's going towards the asteroid belt as one of the Falcon Heavy's boosters burned for too long.
Gee, what's in the asteroid belt? Oh, Ceres with the little light on it that no one knows what it is.
Interesting. And it says that Falcon Heavy's flight could open up the prospect of far cheaper space launches, making travel to Mars more achievable.
Of course.
And in the background of this thing, what did they see? They saw a black dot, which they are claiming, actually they're calling it an entity, that it can be seen as it hurtles across the Earth at high speed. They're saying, what is that? It could be a UFO.
Gee.
And then they say on this film they also see tube-like items and brightly colored lights. So moving along, which is still in our stage alien invasion thing.
Which is going to be this year, I think, people.
Okay, from the shores of Ecuador.
Ecuador. It's my new favorite country.
All right. Residents of the city of Santa Rosa in the canton of Salinas in the province of Santa Elena, and the city of the Bahia de
Caragues
in Manabí, which is located on the Pacific coast of Ecuador.
Near Guayaquil.
The residents were scared when the sea unexpectedly receded more than 100 meters from the shore.
This is an old story.
I know, but I'm going to tell it to you because there's a reason. The fear of the inhabitants were due to the fact that similar phenomena occurred just before destructive tsunamis. We've seen that happen before, when the ocean's waters leave the shore and then they return in the form of a huge tsunami. But the Oceanographic Institute of the country said it was not a harbinger of a tsunami. They said it's a phenomena caused by a so-called
Siji
tide. And this is the tide during the new moon and full moon when the moon is at its perigee and its tidal force is maximum. Well, guess what? The scientists are telling the locals this, but the locals didn't believe it.
Good
They said
for them.
that this was a far-fetched attempt to explain the inexplicable. And they said similar anomalous outflows occurred last year and they could not explain them either. So the scientists just invented similar explanations with general formulations.
That's what they do.
So the people know.
Good for those
And then
people.
it goes on to say in 2017, water mysteriously disappeared from the beaches in Brazil, the Bahamas, Uruguay, Mexico, and it says entire lakes and rivers disappeared. Excuse me. Including tributaries of the Mississippi, Lake Georgia, and I guess there's some place called Lake, which suddenly disappeared. There were many failures, cracks, and unexpectedly appearing circular holes in the earth around the world. What is really happening and what does this threaten our world and all of us in the very near future?
Tectonic plate movement.
And what else did you find out about off the coast of Ecuador?
Well, the Navy of Ecuador, off of this place of Manabí, they were scouting around underneath the ocean, and about 50 miles or about 100 kilometers off the coast of Ecuador, they found a huge complex, which they said was an undersea UFO base, and this is the Ecuadorian Navy saying this.
Yes, and so when we think about all these things, and we talk about all UFOs going into the water, and all the holes that are opening up for a variety of reasons, well, here you have it. So, very interesting research.
And also global warming crap. You know, they said now on the news that the sun is getting dimmer.
I saw that.
And it's going to get colder, but that's not going to affect global warming.
No.
Okay, so the sun's getting colder, but the earth will still warm up.
Yeah. Well,
Brilliant!
I think you weren't here last week, and I don't know if you saw the article where Trump actually said, you know, that first it was global warming, now it's climate change, and he said that actually we have a buildup of ice in the the polar regions.
Yeah, we do. And let me tell you something. We have there's snow up to almost my waist outside.
Yeah. So no global warming here in Michigan.
No.
So anyway, with that said, we want to remind you that our next event is my March, self-healing group webinars.
Well, the next big event is my new live television show, March 18th, 1 p.m. Eastern Time.
Yeah, my webinars actually start before that.
Oh, yeah, well, mine's more important, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just what you think, right?
Yeah.
And then, of course, the Italy trip that we have going on from June 2nd through the 8th. We have 3 spaces left.
And again, you skip the end of May live TV show in Istanbul.
Oh, I did. So we have lots of things going on. Watch the website. Please like, comment, and share the YouTube video as well as the Facebook page. Get the word out there about Hyperspace Oversoul. And please pick up our books because, as I tell you, so many of you ask questions. Blue Blood, True World History. This has galactic history. It's all about aliens and all the staged alien invasion that was written a long time ago. And more things that are going to fascinate you. And we have healing work because it's so strange because, and I mentioned this last week, that people have said, oh, well, we're just fear mongers. No, we tell you what they're telling you, what the global handlers are telling you. And then we give you tools and techniques to fix and correct that. And don't tell us you don't have the money. It's $26 per month US. That's less than $1 a day.
You don't need both your kidneys.
And you have access to our blogs, to our Q&A, to all kinds of information, to other people of like mind who are serious. So the serious people get a membership, and the serious people help each other. affirmation book you need, Stuart Says book you need. We have the White Owl Legends, which is a fascinating archetypal story of creation based upon Chief White Owl. That information my father received from his mentor back in the late 50s.
In Seattle.
Yeah, Decoding Your Life, which of course universal law. And I haven't got this on the website yet, but we've got it out there now finally in book form, the little fluffs. So children's, or if you speak another language, this is a really great way.
I gave that to my grandchildren. They loved it.
Yeah. So anyway, lots of things going on. So there's a lot of ways for you to interact with us.
And don't forget, you're working on, well, hopefully finishing.
Well, let's not even say it.
Well, I want to finish because it'll encourage you to finish it.
It's not going to encourage you to finish it, no.
Because you know what? Your review's coming up.
Yeah, no.
And you know what? If it's not done,
no.
hit the road, sister.
So, sorry about that. Anyway, we are putting together also our September Spectacular class here in St. Joseph, Michigan. So
When is that?
September.
I can't think that far ahead.
I know, but I have to because I have to get on the website so other people can.
You know how many times I can get my parts whitened by then?
Well, several times.
Yeah, I'll have to.
Yeah. Anyway, so with that said, I want you to have a good
just
day.
stick it in the snow.
And
That'll get it
don't
white.
live in fear. And don't live in anger. And don't get out there and
And
march.
don't live in Canada or Britain.
Take care of your own
Or
mind.
New Zealand.
And learn to control your own mind before somebody else does that for you. So
Right.
take care, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.